Well, we're Red Hill Fiber, and I'm Ty.
And I'm Lindsey H.
And we just wanted to share a little about us and what we do and our journey and how we got here. So I was a Navy vet, and when I got out of the military, I moved to Las Vegas, where Lindsey is from. And Lindsey's always been an avid knitter. Anyway, down the road, we ended up back in Indiana, married, and with children, with a child. And I wanted to move to a farm.
And I did not.
She was a city girl, and I grew up, like, my grandparents homesteaded, and those were some of the best memories of my life, was spending with them. And I was trying to convince her to move to a farm.
And he finally did it under the promise of my own alpacas, so I could learn how to hand spin, because alpaca yarn has always been my favorite. And we started out with 2 that turned into 12 within the first year.
Yep.
And it got to be too much.
It got to be like 50 last year. So that's kind of, we got into the alpaca industry. She was raising them for fiber, and I really got into the breeding and the showing, the genetics, the fiber, and 2 turned to 10, that turned to 20, that turned to 50 last year. And into 2019, beginning of 2020, we were like, man, what do we do with all this fiber? Because it was way more than she could process. And with my engineering background, I was like, hey, we should open a mill. And what did you say?
I said no.
She did say no. So we
it took some convincing.
Yeah, so we did some looking into some mills and what they cost new and all the things you needed. And we were looking at like $250,000 just to get started, not the building included. And she was like, there's just no way, Ty, we can't do that.
I said it could be our 10-year plan.
She did. And a month later, I said, hey, we're going to Alabama. I found a mill to buy. So we went to Alabama.
And we packed up our mill into a big, 26-foot box truck and drove it back to Indiana. Yep.
And then a couple months later, COVID happened, and I got furloughed, and we began running the mill
full time.
So lucky for us, everyone was crafting during COVID, and there was lots of demand to have fiber processed. If you guys aren't familiar with like mills, and there's more work than can be possibly done by the very few mills. It is not very lucrative. It's a lot of work.
A lot of
hours, and
it got to the point for us where it wasn't fun anymore.
To pay the bills, we couldn't process our own stuff. We had to stay on processing and other people's stuff. So after about 2 years of open processing, we sat down and tried to make a game plan of how we could only be running our own wool. So that was very important to us. So I think at the end of 2022, we stopped taking on customers, and we finished up our backlog. Into 2023 to 2024, and then 2024 we pretty much started spinning our own yarn full time. We have worked with a couple of our friends here and there, but most of the time we were just spinning and dyeing our own yarn for our online store, and we did markets on our farm, and we did a lot of events and festivals and fiber festivals and stuff like that. Fast forward to 2025.
We now have our own brick and mortar store.
We opened a brick and mortar store in the great town of French Lick, Indiana. We needed more space, and we needed like walk-in traffic and more of a retail presence.
Yeah, so it's been a lot of fun making that jump. And having more space for the mill has definitely opened a lot of doors and made Wild Sage possible because we actually have the room to bring it to fruition.
So, but that's a little about us and how we got to where we are. We have great parents that have helped us a lot along the way. We have 2 beautiful boys for you who don't know us. They're 5 and 10, and they grew up on a farm with alpacas, and really, they understand the small business life. So
they're both entrepreneurs in their own way.
They are both entrepreneurs, and like, if I could teach my kid anything, like, I just want them to have a good work ethic and to to chase their dreams. Making iron was probably never my dream, but I was an engineer, a processing engineer and manufacturing by trade, and I wanted to work on machines and with machines.
And have a not routine every day.
Yeah. I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to chase the American dream. So that's kind of how we got where we are. And then Wild Sage was born. So
that's us in a nutshell.